Then what happens? It shrinks and the hernia comes back, and you got to go back in. And even though that hospital may have saved themselves $150, now they got to go back in and fix that hernia, and there's a good chance they may have to do it for free. So, and I'll give you this, we're going to talk about this later. As an administrator, those of you who go into administration, learn to weigh the difference between price and cost. Because the price may be lower, but the long-term cost is going to be a lot higher. And that's what, when you guys are evaluating products, and you will get that chance, if you're in nursing homes or wherever, you got to look at the difference between price and cost. All right, so we're moving on. Oh, that's my favorite. This little club for the Seahawks. I'm from the state of Washington.
Who's going for Broncos?
Broncos fans are welcome to leave. I'm just kidding.
We're going to lose like all of them.
Now, next week is my son's Pinewood Derby, and we are having a Seahawks themed card. Cool. That's cool. Sherman. Yeah. Anyways, so the question, Chance, asked me, well, where do you spend your day? First of all, doctor's office, obviously. You're selling to a surgeon, you go where the surgeon is. Now, the hardest thing, if anybody's ever done anybody done any sales at all here? Anybody done any business-to-business sales? Okay. Well, the hardest thing in a business-to-business sale is every business has a gatekeeper. When I sold advertising, it was the same thing. You walk in, and in medical offices, there's always a lady sitting in front of you. She's a receptionist, and I guarantee that doctor has told her, do not let any reps back. I don't want to talk to them, don't let them back. So your first hardest part, and this happens for pharmaceuticals, you got to learn to get past that gatekeeper, and we'll talk about some ways how I do that. And a lot of it's just getting to know them, becoming their friend, paying attention to things about them. Obviously, operating room, this is where we all want to be. This is where you make your money. On average, I'm probably in 3 to 10 surgeries a week. That's a great time because the doctor is there. He knows you're there. He invited you to be there, so he's expecting you to talk to him. And he's there, and you're there because he wants to hear what you know. I learned that the best place for me to sell my mesh is the 2 minutes while the doctor's washing his hands before he goes in. You can't go anywhere else. And so they're prepping the patient, and I always make it a point to wait till the patient is prepped and covered so I don't know, just in case I happen to know who they are. I don't want to know who they are. So I got 2 minutes to talk to the doctor. And I'll tell you a funny story real quick. I was in Buffalo, Wyoming. Have you ever been to Buffalo, Wyoming? You've been to Buffalo, Wyoming?
I have a sister that lives there.
Yeah, it's not easy to get there. It's hard.
Get dinner. When you go up there.
What?
Just hook up with him if you get a dinner or something.
Yeah. Anyway, Dr. Ruby is the surgeon, a great guy. And I was doing my first case with him, and he's washing his hands, and he's doing this thing, and they take forever to wash their hands, scrubbing through, He says, Idaho Falls, huh? I said, yeah, I live in Idaho Falls. He goes, a lot of those Mormons there, isn't there? I said, yes, there's a lot of us Mormons there. And he says, good, I'm a stake president, and so, somebody, there was this bond, I guess, between the brethren. But, something as simple as that, now he won't buy from just because I'm a member of the church. But there's something now he can relate to, we can talk about. I'm going to see him at a conference in a couple weeks, and we're going to dinner. After 2 cases of using our product, he ordered $20,000 of our product, and it's all he uses now. And so I'll tell you how that process goes. But so operating room is where you want to be. It's not as glamorous as it looks on TV. Nobody looks like the characters on Grey's Anatomy in the OR, to be honest with you. There's no McDreamies walking through. But it's an interesting place. You see some pretty interesting things. I'll tell some stories a little later. Surgery centers. Obviously, surgery centers. Hernias, I do a lot of hernias at surgery centers because it's an outpatient product or a procedure. You don't usually stay overnight for a simple hernia. Up in Casper, Wyoming, I spend a lot of time there. The hospital will not carry our product, but the surgery center they own will. So I do a lot of work, up there. And so surgery centers might be a unique place if you want an internship. I know a lot of them will let you come in and do those. I heard them talk because you'll see a variety of physicians from orthopedic to general surgeons to urologists to dentists, oral surgeons. You see a lot of different people. And surgery centers, they do bill differently. We have to lower our price for surgery centers just because they don't get reimbursed the amount of money that A hospital does. Hospitals, obviously, you know, when I'm in a hospital, I'm talking to everybody I can talk to about my product, because who knows when they're going to run into somebody. And you always want to make friends. You know, if I'm lost, it doesn't take me long to find a cleaning lady or somebody and say, hey, can you help me find this place? And you can always find out information. If I say, oh, I'm looking for Dr. Jones. Oh, you know, Dr. Jones is usually here on Wednesdays and Fridays. Good to know. I'm going to come back here on a Wednesday then, you know. There's lots of opportunity to gather. It's not, I'll be honest, it's not much different from a mission. You're always gathering information. And then in your car. I spend a lot of time in my car. I cover 3 states. I drive a lot, and a lot of reps do. So you learn to kind of plan your trips around where you're going to be, and try to make the most out of them. And you know, hopefully you have books on tapes, and satellite radio, or podcasts, or whatever it is. But you do spend a lot of time in your car. But I try to use it to my advantage. When I go to Buffalo, Wyoming, I make sure they know I drove that long to come see them, because then they're a little more, you know, nice to me about it. Oh, you came all the way from there? Yeah, okay. Well, I'm sure the doctor will see you then. You know, it's just kind of how it works. And so that's kind of where you spend your day. And who are your call points? You would think, oh, it's all about the surgeon. You got to go talk to the surgeon because that's the guy who makes decisions. It's really not as much as you think. Obviously, physicians are, you have to get them on board. But your operating room manager, every operating room has someone who's in charge of everything, even the doctors. The other ones that say, yeah, doctor, you can't do that. Nope, you can't have that slot. Or what it may be. Got to get to know them. I'll talk about them in a second of how I get to know them. But they are key to what any surgical sales you do. Materials manager, they're the ones who are going to pay you. They're the ones who issue the checks to your company. They're the ones who approve you being sold. So you have got to develop a relationship with them. I'll tell you a story about a materials manager who I got in a fight with once. Not like a physical fight, but like I could take her, but more of an argument. But they're key. And there's some great ones who are easy to work with. Some are like pulling teeth, and you know, it becomes an ego match if you're not careful. Hospitals, CFOs. Right now I'm doing some stuff with the hospital, and I'm working with their CFO directly. You know, I sit down in his office and we talk about some things that we're doing for them, not only in the OR, but as far as some social media and advertising things we're willing to do with them for their, in turn, exclusively using our product. And so I'll sit down and go over cost savings and show them some things, some ways that we can help. And one of the things I talked to Chance about, does anybody know what the difference between a critical access hospital and a regular hospital is?
Yeah. Critical access also has like 25 beds and or less, and then they have to be in a certain distance away from the nearest hospital, and it's got other stipulations. Bingham is an exception from the rules, but then like regular hospitals are 200 beds or more.
Bingham is an exception, but they use it exceptionally well. They are amazing at how well they use it, because the biggest difference, okay, we'll use Irmac as Irmac in Idaho Falls. They do a surgery, they're gonna probably get a bill on Medicare, Medicaid, 85% allowed billable. So they're allowed to probably bill 85% of what they want to, right? And they make up their money other ways. That's why they don't like to take Medicare and Medicaid patients. Critical access are allowed to bill 101% allowed. So they're able to bill more. So if my mesh costs $1,000, they get a bill for 101% of that. So I'm making them money at this point. And you'd be amazed at how many CFOs and materials people who I've had to explain that to. They didn't realize the billing advantage they had. I wanted to say, should I have your job then? Because you're losing your hospital money. And the whole reason that's made that way is so small community hospitals can compete. So they can still have technology and the newest thing, so they aren't giving lesser care just because they're rural. And so as you guys go out and maybe get into a hospital position, if that is, you know, critical access, you're seeing a lot of these big hospital chains are starting to buy critical access hospitals so they can have that billing advantage. It's happening a lot. A big hospital chain, anybody here from Arizona? Banner Health, you guys familiar with them? Huge. They own a critical access hospital in rural Wyoming, out in the middle of nowhere, because they can bill better for it. It's a great cash cow for it.
There's a lot of members of the church in Bend.
Yeah, well, I guess our rep in Arizona's having a problem with that. Yeah, I've always been good with them. Yeah, I mean, so you're seeing a big change in healthcare. You may want to keep, apprised of what's going on there. Hospital CEOs, sometimes we have to get involved with them. We think they're final decision maker. That does happen a lot. Not on a daily basis. So that's kind of who we call on. And then practice managers sometimes. I'm working with the practice manager right now in Casper, Wyoming, because there's a big surgeons conference next month in Jackson Hole, and the surgeon in charge of it is in Casper, so really his practice manager is in charge of it. So I'm working with her about getting our booth set up and having a lecture times, different things. So it's good to get to know those people because they're the ones who will give you access. I can call her and say, hey, what cases does Dr. Anderson have coming up this week? Oh, he has 2 hernias on Wednesday. Great, I'll be there. I can say, hey, Dr. Anderson, I'm going to be in town. Can I come in and meet with you or go into your case? And he'll let me come in and I'll sell him some mesh, or try to at least. But he's already using it, but you can always use more. Now, I'm going to walk through the ideal sale on our end. And it's a little different. Those of you who sold, it's a little different sales call, and it might make sense to you. The first call I always make when I come into a town I've never been in is to the operating room manager at the hospital or surgeon. So I already know that Dr. Jones operates at this hospital and what days he's in there, because I called his office and they told me he'll do that. So, and I already know that Mary is the operating coordinator or manager at this hospital. So I go into Mary and I walk in and she's like, who are you? What are you doing here? I say, hi Mary, my name is Chris, I'm a surgeon mesh. I am going to go see Dr. Jones in a few minutes. I just wanted to come and introduce myself so you know who I am. So I'm going to show him some new technology I think he's going to love. And I want to make sure you recognize when we come back next week to do some cases. So you're not thinking, who is that guy? That's all I'm doing. And she'll be like, oh, that's great. Thanks for doing that. Yeah, he's a good guy. He does a lot of hernias. I'm sure he'll be interested. That's all. They say that every time. So now Mary knows who I am. I know Mary. We high five. I leave. I go across to the surgeon's office, and there, who sits at the front desk? The gatekeeper. I say, hey, gatekeeper, whatever her name is. They seem to be named Angela a lot for some reason. She's usually drinking a large Pepsi. I say, hey, Angela. I was just over talking to Mary at the hospital, and she thought that Dr. Jones would really like to see my product. Here's a sample of what I have. Why don't you pass it back, and if he wants to see it, I'm waiting, and if he wants to reschedule for next week, I'll come back. Simple pass back, a little bit of information. About 60 to 70% of the time, because the doctor's never seen our product, it's different. A few minutes later, I'll show them, go at the door, and say, psst, come here. And they'll call me back. And it's a different approach than a lot of people. Now, if I just went straight to the doctor and couldn't name drop Mary, give some little third-party leverage, I'm probably not going to get to see that doctor. So it's just a chance to kind of make a cold call a little warmer, if you would. Ideally, after I show the doctor our product, I say, hey doc, what hernias do you have coming up next week? He'll say, oh, let's look at my schedule. And say, oh, it looks like I got 2 inguinal hernias on Tuesday. Doctor, most of our physicians like to do 5 to 10 evaluations. Can we start with those on Tuesday? Yeah, go ahead. Great. Hey doctor, I'm going to go ahead and go back and see Mary and tell her I'm coming. Is it all right if they call you to confirm so they don't think I'm making something up? Oh yeah, actually, I'll just have my secretary call them and tell them you're coming. That's how it works. So now I'm set up. I got 2 cases coming up with this doctor, which means I'm going to be in the OR for a couple hours with him. It'll be a nice time to not only meet the whole staff, get to know them, tell them about our product, but also to get to know him and tell him about our product. Ideally, if he likes our product, every surgeon has a preference card that says what they like on each case. Oh, for hernias, they like this. For lap choles, like this. For appendicitis, they like these products. I want that card changed to my product, Surgery Mesh, this one. And then we do an order. And once we start ordering, now they're starting to order the product or using it. And then ideally, if they're using it all, I go in and do what's called a conversion. I say, hey doc, you're using our product now. You're no longer using all this stuff. Let me take it off your hands. If you're willing to let us do it, I will take this $20,000 worth of competitor's mesh off your shelf. And we will donate it to Doctors Without Borders or something. And then we're going to do a new order and replace it with our mesh, and we're going to give you a credit of $100 every month going forward. So now they just ordered a bunch more mesh to replace what I just took in. We look like great people because we're donating mesh to people who need it. And they're getting credit back at $100 a month, $20,000, $100 a month. They're gonna be ordering mesh for a long time, you know? But now that hospital is locked down. They're only using my product. And that's where you wanna get. Because now their patients, and because I believe that their patients have better outcomes using my product, it's a win-win for everyone. And because the way ours is built, for example, every other mesh on the market is not designed to be cut. So think about it, you have a mesh, most meshes look almost like a screen door. Imagine if you cut that frayed edge is gonna hurt a little bit. Ours is designed to be cut. So instead of having a small, medium, large, extra large, you need one piece of ours, you just cut it down. So there's a lot of cost savings that I'll sit down with them and go over how we are saving them money because our product is different. For example, a lot of companies make a left and a right for a piece of mesh. Ours doesn't matter. So now, you know, if they have to have a small, medium, large, extra large, and a left-right, what's that, 10 pieces they have to have now? Yeah, we can have 2 pieces. So we better save some money and a bunch of stock. So it's really about, there's a business aspect to it and a health aspect to it because our mesh is a superior product. Typically, I'm out the door by 7:30 a.m. unless I have an early case in the OR. I like to be at the hospital 45 minutes before the case starts. Typically, the earliest cases starts between 7 and 7:30, so do the math. I'm in the hospital at 6:15 in the morning. Lucky thing is, rarely does a surgeon operate after 2 o'clock. It just don't. A lot of ORs will leave that time open for trauma.